Hello, my friend. My name is Josh Brill. If you don't already know me, I am the founder of something called the Yoga of Guitar, the Yoga of Ukulele. I teach and coach about music and mindfulness, and I'm also a professional musician and artist whose music is on Spotify. This video specifically is about Spotify, and Spotify is a very hot topic these days. It is getting a lot of criticism, and what this video is not going to be is a commentary, a political commentary on the current situation of should somebody have the freedom to speak and share and have conversation, or should they not? This is not about that. This is about my positive experience as a musician on Spotify. And, you know, Spotify gets a lot of criticism, especially these days. And not for good reason. You know, there's very valid criticism, mainly around the compensation structure. But I want to offer another perspective that I don't know if you've heard from other musicians who have found benefit from Spotify. So, to begin with, one of the biggest things that Spotify offers musicians, and I would even say music as a whole, is the ability to reach people. Now, this is so huge, and this has never happened before in the industry of recorded music. This has never been the case. Up until now, music has always been shared with in very limited channels, mostly governed by major corporations, i.e. the record industry, through various channels such as the radio or then MTV. So it was a very, very, very narrow bandwidth to actually get your music to people. And many, many layers of barriers of entry along the way to make that happen. If this were 30 years ago, and I was an independent artist, as I am, who creates music for mindfulness and yoga and meditation, how would people hear that music? I don't think MTV would be playing my album. I don't think radio stations would be playing my album. It would be very, very difficult. And today, in fact, I just got this email that at this moment, this past month, there have been 40,000 people who have listened to my music this month, and this music that was created specifically to help relax the nervous system, calm the mind, accompany yoga, meditation, very, very, very niche and specific. And, you know, and 30 years ago, that would have been very difficult to reach that many ears, to reach 40,000, I guess 80,000 ears, 40,000 hearts. So just that alone, the ability to actually reach people is so important. As a musician, we create music to reach people, to connect with people. As a musician, we connect with music, and for whatever reason, we feel called to share that with other people. And it's very powerful, and it's really important that we have that. And in my opinion, the more ability for musicians to reach people, the more powerful the impact that their effort becomes. Now, I just looked at a stat. I'm not really one for stats, but I did look at it. Spotify currently has 8 million musicians on the platform. 8 million artists are sharing their music and able to reach anybody on the planet. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how important that is for artists and for music and for humanity. To be able to reach people at the primary level is important. Now, where Spotify is amazing is that not that it's just a window, a distribution model that decentralizes the ability of music and makes it available for everybody, but the AI, the algorithm, learns your taste of music and gives you music suggestions that are really dialed in. Now, personally, my musical taste is very eclectic. I would say even esoteric. People ask me what genre of music you listen to, and I don't even know how to answer that. But I do have a very, I would say, specific taste, and I am amazed as a listener that every week in the Discover Weekly in Spotify, they share music with me. They share new artists I've never heard of before that I love. And I would say out of the Discover Weekly, which I think is usually about 2.5 hours of new music that they're providing every week, I would say 70% of it I really like. and I literally like it. I click like, and I put it in a playlist, and I listen to it later. And I've found so many amazing new musicians and new music that I never would have heard before if it weren't for this platform. So the platform itself, as a model to learn what people like and get the artist to them, there's nothing like it on the planet. And the other platforms, Apple Music, it does not have a good AI system. Apple Music is very much based in a replication of the old model, more of like you go into a store and you find the music, but Spotify really learns your taste and shares music with you. So now as an artist, how powerful that is Spotify does the work of finding people who it has learned would like music that I create, which is also very hard to pin down. It's not a genre. It's not like blues, it's meditation music. What even is that? So it finds people who would appreciate that, and in a lot of it, it learns it by listening to artists who are, in the same genre, and it says, oh, if you like that person, maybe you would like Josh, or if you like Josh, maybe you like Garth Stevens, great musician. So Spotify learns this and shares it with people. It's so powerful, and it's not something to overlook. And as I see people canceling their Spotify, for political reasons, or perhaps even, this misinformation that artists are mistreated on the platform, it breaks my heart, because honestly, the independent artist will suffer the most because of that. Now, one of the main criticisms that Spotify has is their compensation model. Okay, so full disclosure, I am a strong advocate on proper compensation for artists. I believe musicians should be paid for their work. If somebody hires me for a gig, I have a certain minimum. If they can't reach that, and if I don't feel it's worth or equal compensation for my time and all of the effort and all the 33 years I put into my craft and art, then I'll decline the gig, and I support other people in doing that. So proper compensation, I am a strong advocate on proper compensation for musicians, and that's one of the main criticisms that Spotify has as an artist platform, is their compensation model. Now, when Spotify first came on board, I was very angry at the platform. And I was, as an artist, as an advocate for fair compensation, I was like, they're paying what? And what I noticed at the time was my monthly income that I was receiving from iTunes downloads was beginning to go down as Spotify reached critical mass. So my monthly passive income took a hit at first. And I was very angry. And in fact, if you look back in my previous Facebook feed from, maybe 10 years ago or so, I was a strong vocal advocate about Spotify being bad for artists and bad for music and all of that. And at the time, I really believed it. Now, 10 years later, because, part of growth, of course, is looking at how things have moved from our first perceptions of them, and then, reassessing and reevaluating things. So, 10 years later or so, here's what I can say about the compensation model of Spotify. Could it be more? Should it be more? Yes, I would love it yes, of course. Having said that, where I think artists need to change their perception in a couple different ways, and this probably could be a whole other video specifically for artists, but it's in how we approach our art and our craft in modern times. So first off, the act of actually, selling music is a relatively new thing that was created by the music industry. So up until, I don't know the date, but up until, records were sold, really, music was not necessarily a commodity, so to speak. Sure, people would pay to go to concerts to have an experience, but actually paying for ownership of recorded music is a relatively new thing. And if you look at what happened with the development of the record industry, it was not beneficial to artists. They were crooks, to say it nicely. If you don't know about how record labels worked, the short of it is they basically offer money to the artist to make the album, which was basically a loan that the artist had to work off by selling albums and touring until they recouped their money, and then the artist might get some if they weren't screwed to begin with a really awful contract that basically had an awful compensation model, which most were. So short of it is, the act of selling music, selling a CD, selling a record, selling a download is a relatively new thing. We are in a new phase of life. And what I see long-term strategy, rather than, okay, if somebody were to pay, $10 for a download, and perhaps I would receive $6 of that, is building an audience and connecting with them, which Spotify makes possible. And that is so much more valuable than just the exchange of somebody listening and the artist receiving money. Now, is it important to receive money as an artist? Yes. We need to eat. We need a house. We need shelter. We need a sense of ease to be able to create new music, and money does facilitate that. So I'm not saying money isn't important. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that as artists, we actually need to be thinking a little bit beyond that. And one of the things, and this will be a criticism of the musician mentality, and I used to have this, is just because we make art, we are not entitled to compensation for it. Or, if somebody hires me for a gig, and I feel very much that there's an exchange and an entitlement for compensation. Somebody's hiring me. But if I decide, for whatever reason, to create something and share it with the world, that's not coming from a place of I am entitled to receive money for this because I created it. No. I know that might be a little shocking, but music, from my perspective, is a gift that we share with people. Now, if somebody is profiting off of that sharing, should there be compensation in the return? Yes. Is Spotify profiting? Yes. Should there be more compensation? I've already said I think there ought to be, but that doesn't mean it's a bad program. One of the things to think about for compensation. Now, okay, I also mentioned that at first when Spotify came out, my monthly downloads were going down. So years later, I'm making way more money than I was before. Now, think about this. Even though it's a small percentage per stream, it adds up. And it adds up over time. So if you're thinking about it, in 10 years later, I wonder how many people would be listening to music that I released 15 years ago. Not very many. And I've already talked about how would I even get that music to them. It would be very, very difficult, if not impossible. So the fact that Spotify continues to share this music with audience who are appreciating it, I continue to get paid for that. Finding new people to listen to it. So it's basically also a marketing platform. Now, marketing does cost money. In fact, in the old days when you got a record contract, basically you were signing an agreement with a bank, a loan agent, and a marketing label. And that's basically what a music label did. So Spotify is marketing for you. It is finding people to listen to your music. And once again, that's amazing. Now it's building an audience for you. Now, where I wish Spotify was a little bit more artist friendly, besides the obvious compensation model, would be some more direct interaction with the audience. That would be invaluable. And I would lobby for that. I would lobby for the ability to send a message to my audience, even if I had to pay for it. The 40,000 people, if I can tell them, hey, I'm teaching a course on here's how you play the ukulele as a mindfulness practice. Hey, if you like my music, maybe I could help you actually make music like that. Would I like the ability to connect with those people? Yes, that would be worth way more than the royalty coming back. So that would be an amazing improvement Spotify can make, would be that ability to have more direct interaction with the fans. I have seen Spotify move in that direction with listing concerts. So artists who I like, Spotify says, hey, they're coming to your area. Well, that's cool. I've also seen that Spotify is creating a merch program for artists to be able to sell merch. That's cool. So there is a lot of value for an artist who thinks outside of the box. Now, will every artist have 40,000 listeners out of the 8 million people creating music? Now, okay, let me just say this. 8 million people creating music and sharing it with other people. that is good for us. It's good for the planet. It is good for everybody to encourage more creative expression and free and the freedom that comes from that is really, really important. So let's not overlook that. That's amazing. But anyway, out of those 8 million people, will the majority of them have 40,000 listeners or more? Well, the majority. I mean, I personally, I'm not going to get into how much I make money from Spotify, but it's something. And it covers, I would say at least the majority of my food for the month. So it's something. Will the majority of those 8 million creators make that? No. Are they entitled to make that? No. And that's a hard truth as an artist. Not everybody's going to listen to your music. Not everybody's going to love your music. So there is a certain level, I feel, of humility that's necessary as an artist to change our mindset rather than looking at music as possibly a commodity, but as a gift. And when we give a gift, we feel and we find that in life that the gift is in the giving. And there's something about the universe that I find that when we are truly sincere with our gift, when we're in tune with, our integrity, oftentimes things come back to us in ways that we never would have imagined. And if we have an expectation of how it must come back, perhaps we're closing off, some of the magic that life is made of. So just some things to think about. I, of course, have a lot more I can say about it, but just those main points is the decentralization of distribution of music and the access that it offers the lovers of music to the creators of music is massive. The AI algorithm that actually finds the people, it's marketing, that finds the people that would like to hear this music and delivers it to them, that's massive. And the ability for and inspiration for people to be able to create and release new music. I'll just say this, that way back when, 30 years ago or so, let's say that would have put us in the 90s, it was very expensive to create recorded music. Most people did not have the capability on their computer. Computers were just beginning to be able to record music. So you have to go into the studio, lots of analog gear, very expensive to maintain, to upkeep. Creating music was very expensive. And then once you created music, now you had to put it on a physical medium, which was also very expensive. Not to mention expensive for the environment. Think about this. Every CD and tape and LP that's ever been created in the history of humanity is on the planet somewhere right now, unless it was burned and then it's in the atmosphere. So there's an environmental aspect to this as well, but just the physical distribution of creating material goods was very expensive as an independent artist. And I did used to have print CDs and get some CDs created. It cost the money, and I had to put out that money first. At that time, about 1,000 CDs was, I think, maybe roughly like $1,500, $2,000 more if you wanted to get something rather than just the old school, very antiquated jewel case. If you wanted a nice little cardboard or something environmentally friendly, it could be $3 or $4 a unit. If you ordered 1,000 at a time, if you ordered less than 1,000 at a time, it was even more. At the time, I could not afford that many CDs, so I was getting printed roughly, 100 CDs at a time. I think it was costing me about $4 a CD. So, I would put out 400, I would get 100 of these things back, and I would try to sell them for like $10, and anyway, I still have a stack of them in my closet. But the point is that back, up until recent times, it was very expensive to create music and to release music. And that's not even covering, of course, the marketing. Okay, you print 100 CDs. Well, how do you, who's going to buy them? If you just put them in a record store and no one can listen to it, they never heard it before, are they buying it? So it was hard back then, much harder than now. Way fewer opportunities back then than now. So anyway, it was more expensive. It was more expensive to market, to get it to people. It was just a very, very much more limited road. Whereas now, anybody with a computer can create music and release it, and it goes to people. as musicians and lovers of music, and primarily I would say I am a lover of music, and that's what made me learn music, and what inspires me to teach other people music is this love for music. So in conclusion, before there's this whole rush to cancel this platform, which ultimately independent artists such as myself and music as a whole will suffer from that, maybe we just take a pause. And I think in our current times and chaotic times, and our current times are chaotic times, it's very important to take a pause and let's just let the emotional reaction settle. So thank you for listening. I hope this was informative. I hope this offered a bit of a different perspective. I have a lot more I could say about this, but for now, I'll just leave you with that. Feel free to reach out, feel free to comment, share the conversation. I would just ask, if we have a conversation about this, it's a conversation. I feel conversations are very important to have. I feel they are necessary, even in oppositional views, and they need to be heard. So what I feel though is not needed right now. We have way too much, is just this. So I ask if you comment that all of our comments and discussion stays kind, considerate, compassionate, met with goodwill, and not what I call Facebook ping pong or social media ping pong, which is, here's my point, here's why you're wrong, here's my point, here's why you're wrong, well, here's why you're wrong about that, and here's why you're wrong about that, and then it's ping pong. It doesn't do anything except waste a lot of energy, waste a lot of attention, and create more gnarly shit in the world. So I would encourage you, don't do that, but I would encourage a healthy discussion. I think healthy discussion is very important and needs to be guarded. So thank you for listening.